Hey, 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 hey. This is Willie Cartwright with From Save to Sane. Thank you for joining me as I get all of my stuff together. I am happy to have you guys today, whether you are joining us live, whether you are joining us, whatever time zone that you are in. We certainly appreciate it. Those of you who may pick this up at a later time and a later date, we certainly appreciate that as well. Those of you who are joining us live, please check in. Let me know that you're here. Say hello to me. Leave some comments. Let's discuss. I am excited, like I am about every show, but I am particularly excited about today's program, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I have to begin. I have to begin the way I always begin by saying thank you to a couple of people. Let me begin with by saying thank you to Taisha Essig, who, as I say every time I'm on here, she is partly responsible for me doing this and being here and on this platform doing this. She was instrumental in getting me started and helping me, so I'm always thankful to her. Those of you people who know me from way back, I am a fiercely loyal person, almost to a fault. Um, I don't know if that's part of just who I am, my makeup as a person. Those of you who may believe in zodiac signs, I am an Aquarius, and so there's a whole lot that goes into that. Those of you who follow the zodiac sign, I don't know if I follow it or believe in it 100% or whatever, but I think it's interesting. There are some personality traits and some nuances about me and my personality that lines up with being an Aquarius. So we'll go with that. But anyway, maybe that fierce loyalty is one of those things. So I'm always going to be thankful and appreciative of Taisha Essig. So thank you. I hope she's out there. I hope she's listening. If not, and I hope she's taking care of her family or doing her own thing. Those of you, I always say support Taisha in her efforts. She has a platform and she's out there speaking about a number of things. And so if you can find Taisha Essig out there in the space, please support her. I would also like to say thank you to my wife. As always, she is always the one who supports me from behind. She makes sure that my things are right, technology and all of that. She steps in and takes care of that. I run some of the topics by her, and she gives me the thumbs up or thumbs down, and we have very interesting discussions. So thank you to my wife of what are we now, 20 plus years, 21 years together, 20 plus years married. And so I'm thankful to her, fortunate that to have her. So yeah, let's go. Before I get started, I see a couple of comments. Sharon, what's going on? Glad to have you with us. What's happening? Sharon said, "Good evening. I hope you and your wife are doing well. We are doing fabulous. We are here just outside of Vegas, and they keep saying that this is monsoon season, Sharon, and so that we're supposed to have rain. We have not seen it yet. We haven't had rain in a long time. I love the sunshine. Wouldn't mind having some rain every now and then. My wife says that if it does rain within the next week, or whenever it's supposed to rain, that she's going to just go out and sit out in the rain, and I may join her as well. But so thank you, Sharon, for being here. Certainly appreciate it. Denise Washington, 2416. Are you new? If you are, glad. I'm thankful that you're here. Certainly appreciate it. If you're not, then I apologize. But yeah, you said, "Oh no, not an Aquarius." Denise, I did not know that us Aquarians were had the reputation that we had. I knew I had some quirks, and that I was a little different. But as I start to get more into that, it's really interesting. Yeah. So you, what is my? This is funny, Denise. My wife is a Cancer, so we're like completely opposite. She is very sensitive and caring about people. I am very detached and removed and don't care. I have no emotions. My sister, who's a Virgo, she constantly talks about me not being emotional and not being sensitive. So it is really funny, but we've made it work for 20 years. And so we both have had to kind of come to the middle. She's had to do a lot of ignoring me, and I've had to become a little bit more sensitive about certain things, and so we've made it work. Sharon, you guys had rain last night. You're in. Are you not? Are you in Arizona or Texas? I can't remember. Um, but yeah, you're a Leo. Okay, cool. So yeah, my niece is a Leo. Her birthday is coming up. She's August 15th or something. She's a Leo. Oh, Arizona. Yeah, Arizona. Okay, good. But how did you guys get Arizona and we? I mean, how did you guys in Arizona get rain and we didn't? That is crazy. It's missing us. It's passing us. Denise, husband's an Aquarius, and that's a good man. That is a good man, Denise. That is a good man. Aquarian men are great. Once you figure once you figure us out, but I know he's a good man. You're a Pisces. That's cool. All right. Yeah. Fantastic. Love it. Yeah. So let me do this too before I get talked about by Taisha and my wife. Here's my book for those of you who want to pick it up off of Amazon. It is My Journey Away from Save the Same, My Journey Away from Christianity and Why Christianity Has Been Detrimental to the African American Community. Willie Cartwright. You can get this on Amazon, or you can email me or send me a message with your information, and we can get you a signed copy. But the book is still out there. It is still selling. It's been about 5 years since I first introduced the book. And so I am appreciative of the work that I've done in the book. I've said to you guys before that I was going to write another book. This is actually my fourth book, but this is my first book on this topic of religion. Thank you, Sharon. I certainly appreciate that. It is a good read. It is an easy read. It's a quick read. And so I certainly appreciate that, Sharon. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still going back and forth about writing another book. It is a huge undertaking. So I don't. I'm in the process of seeing what's going on with that. Some good news. I have someone reached out to me about speaking to a secular organization. It'll be virtual because they're in Florida. So I will be speaking to them about nuns, NONES, the spread of secularism in this country, and nuns. And I think that's going to be in August. I will find out if there's a way to send a link for you guys if any of you are interested in seeing me give my virtual presentation on that. I'll find out if there's a way that I can send a link out to people who are interested. But yeah. So let's get into the topic. So today's topic is there archaeological evidence that supports the Bible? And I often begin these by telling you, you guys, how I came to this topic and why. Well, first of all, I have been accused of only taking one side. What believers or Christians would say is the negative side. But what I offer and what I tell them I offer is a balance. Someone who has been a Christian and was a Christian for 40 years, and those of you who are familiar with being a Christian or in any faith, you know that for a fact, all you ever really hear about are the good things. If you read the Bible, it's about the Bible. The preacher or the Sunday school teacher only talks about the good things out of the Bible and avoids a lot of the things that would be considered negative or harmful or whatever. And that is a major part of the Bible, whether you're Old Testament or New Testament. And so what I tell people is that in the work that I'm doing, I am basically introducing some of these things, especially the Christians who have never heard of a lot of these stories or who have not taken a objective and balanced viewpoint of their faith before. And certainly for those of us who have did our work and deconverted and left the faith or in the process of leaving the faith, it is important that we have a balance. You get one side every Sunday or every Wednesday or every Sunday morning, every Wednesday night, every Saturday, whenever you attend church or you read your Bible, because even in reading the Bible, people become selective. They read the chapters or the scriptures that they are familiar with, that has been quoted to them by teachers or pastors or those or whoever else that they get their information from. And so they tend to go to those passages and scriptures that make them feel comfortable, that don't challenge them, that don't make them think, wait a minute, does this really make sense? But I also pride myself on trying to, again, as I say, have a balance. And from time to time, I will throw the believers a proverbial bone out there, and we will talk about topics like today's topic. And so, archaeological evidence that actually supports the Bible. Now, before we get into it, let's sort of talk about what I mean when I say support the Bible. The Bible is the Bible is what I would call, and many others would call, historical fiction, meaning that there are things in the Bible that are historically accurate, like places, certain people, certain events, but that the general thing, the basic foundation of the Bible, meaning in this case, meaning the major characters or the major events that shape and help to create and undergird the faith itself, are not necessarily real. Well, not real at all. And so if you think about it like this, if you ever read a comic book about Batman being in Gotham, well, Gotham is another name for New York City. So New York City actually exists. And maybe there are even some buildings and some places in New York City that may be found in the Batman comic books, but that does not mean that Batman himself is a real person or a real character. And so the Bible is very similar. And I will say this so that we are clear. What I am saying is that there are things in the Bible, places, and even some people that historically are real. However, the Abrahamic God, the divine Jesus, and many of the other major characters, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, all some of those people are not real, or at least we do not have the evidence to prove that those people are real and that they exist. Stories, and we'll get into this, and I'm just going to save some of the stories, but that's what I mean when I say that this is like sort of historical fiction. And so that's why we're doing this. However, I wanted to be fair to my believers who may be on here as well. And we want to have this open discussion, or if you come to the podcast later, you hear something that interests you, please leave me a comment. And so when we talk about evidence in the Bible, so these are things that are historical and found in the Bible, but they're also been supported by objective secular historians or research or documents, but they don't at all, and I'll let you decide once we read through them, but they don't at all support the overall notion of the Bible and this divine, risen, resurrected Jesus who died for our sins, and his Father, this divine overseer that we call God, or the Abrahamic God. And so without further ado, we will get into that. So some of the things, and this is those of you who are critical of the things that I say and following me, that's fine. But you can find these things with a quick Google search. And this is basically what I did. And I did this from the standpoint of a lot of these things are not known to a whole lot of people. But I wanted to be, I wanted to be transparent while we're on here. So I'm on a Google search and Googled archaeological, what is it? What did I put in? Archaeological findings that support the Bible. And Google made it perfectly clear, and this is actually Chat GPT, they made it perfectly clear that there is a difference. The key distinction is between archaeological findings confirming that a place, person, or event exists, and archaeology proving the Bible's theological or miraculous claims. There is a difference. Archaeology can often support the historical settings of the Bible, but it generally cannot prove supernatural events. But here are some of the strongest archaeological discoveries that support or that are also found in the Bible. The first one, the Tel Dan Stele, Teldanstele. 9th century BC. It mentions the house of David. Now, when I've had these discussions before, and we've talked about this before, when people challenge me and say, well, there are characters in the Bible that are real. Absolutely. We know for a fact that Pontius Pilate was a real person, and for the most part, we know that David was a real person. So this is not anything new. But anyway, it mentions the house of David. This is the earliest known archaeological reference to King David outside of the Bible. It supports the existence of a Davidic royal dynasty. And so do with that as you will. David, although an important figure in a certain aspect, he is still not a major character that is part of the foundation of the faith. The next one, the Pilate stone, discovered in Caesarea Maritima, bears the name Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea. Those of you who know the history of Christianity, you know that Christianity was actually founded in Judea, which was a Roman-controlled province in the Middle East area of the world. And so this stone confirms that Pontius Pilate, who ordered Jesus' crucifixion, according to the Gospels, was a real historical official. So we do know that. Ironically, and what I find to be really surprising, well, not surprising because I knew this, but something that should make everyone think is that although Pontius Pilate was a real person, a historical official, in Rome, there is no contemporaneous writings of the crucifixion or the resurrection of Jesus Christ in Rome. So think about it. Here is an official who actually lived, who even if he ordered Jesus' crucifixion, it was from the standpoint of Jesus being like any other common criminal, but someone who purported, or his followers purported, that he was the second coming and the Messiah. Remember, people, guys, that the crucifixion was a common way of putting people to death. It was nothing extraordinary. It was nothing special done to Jesus, even if he did exist as a person. And so keep that in mind. Here's a common one that many people bring up all the time, but they bring it up for the wrong reasons. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so in many of my debates or dialogues, people will bring up the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Dead Sea Scrolls actually do nothing to confirm the existence of Jesus or the resurrection or a divine Jesus or the existence of a God whatsoever. They were found near the Qumran, Qumran, beginning in 1947, included copies of nearly every Old Testament book during from about 250 BC to AD 70. Demonstrates that the Hebrew scriptures were transmitted with remarkable consistency over the centuries. That is it. It is not evidence that Jesus existed as a divine being. It is not evidence. I don't think, and I've done some research on them, I don't think it even mentions Jesus at all, even as a human person. It certainly doesn't confirm or prove evidence that a God, that the Abrahamic God exists either. The next one, the Siloam inscription, found inside Hezekiah's tunnel in Jerusalem. Again, Hezekiah is a character, a person, a lesser character in the Bible that this sort of confirms that that person existed. Found inside of Hezekiah's tunnel in Jerusalem, describes construction of the tunnel mentioned during King Hezekiah's reign. Matches the biblical account of preparations for the Assyrian siege. And then Hezekiah, the next one is Hezekiah's tunnel itself. The tunnel itself still exists. It corresponds with the engineering project described during the reign of King Hezekiah. And so this without sufficient argument to say to go against, this would confirm that at least King Hezekiah existed, but again, not a major character, sort of a lesser character. Are you, Denise, are you not able to hear me? Are you guys able to hear me? I said, what happened? You said, what happened to the sound? Hopefully you guys are able to hear me. Let me know if you can still hear me, please. And maybe my voice went down or I moved away from the microphone. I'm waiting before I continue, make sure that you guys can hear me. Hello? Are you guys able to hear me? Okay. Sharon says she can hear me. Okay, we'll continue. Thank you, Sharon. Denise, hopefully you can hear me now. So let's see. The next one is the Taylor Prism, Prism Prism. Records records Assyrian king campaign against Judah. Mentions King Hezekiah. Interestingly, it says Jerusalem was shut up like a bird in a cage, but does not claim it was conquered, matching the biblical claim that Jerusalem survived the siege. The siege. Thank you, Denise. Glad you can hear me. The next one, this is number 7, if you're keeping count. The Mesha Stele, Stele, Moabite stone, more commonly known as the Moabite stone, written by King Mesha of Moab, I should say, describe conflicts with Israel similar to those recorded in 2 Kings. One of the earliest references to Israel outside the Bible. Again, nothing major, no evidence that would support a divine Jesus or a divine God, Abrahamic God. The next one is the Cyrus cylinder. Describes Persian King Cyrus allowing displaced people to return to their homelands and restore temples. Fits the biblical account of Cyrus permitting the Jews to return from the Babylonian exile. All right. Now, this is not the Exodus that is instrumental and foundational to the Christian faith. We're not talking about the Exodus where the Jews who were supposedly held as slaves in Egypt went across the Red Sea. This is not the same exile. This is not the same journey at all. And so, as you can see, as you will see, there is no archaeological evidence for the Exodus. And so we will continue. Number 9, the Black Obelisk, Obelisk, depicts King Juha in his representative paying tribute. Provides one of the earliest known artistic depictions of an Israelite king. Continue, keep this in mind. Tell me what you guys think of this at the end. What is the common thread here? The Lachish reliefs, Assyrian palace carving showing the siege of Lachish, Lachish. The Bible also records the Assyrian conquest of Lachish before the campaign against Jerusalem. Number 11, the Kappas Osori, a decorated bone box inscribed with the name of Joseph, Caiaphas. Kappas is identified in the Gospels as the high priest during Jesus' trial. Again, no other contemporaneous writings of Jesus' trial, his resurrection, his crucifixion, nothing outside of the Bible was written contemporaneously about Jesus. Number 12, the Pool of Bethesda, once thought legendary because it had not been found. Excavations uncovered a pool matching John's detailed description. The Pool of Siloam is number 13. Excavated in Jerusalem, matches the location described in the Gospels of John where Jesus healed a blind man. But yet we have no contemporaneous writings outside of the Bible of Jesus actually doing this healing, this miracle. We have zero non-biblical evidence of any miracles supposedly performed by this Jesus character. The Gallio inscription found in Delphi, Greece, mentions Gallio, the Roman proconsul, referenced in the book of Acts. Helps anchor Paul's ministry journeys chronologically. Number 15, the Erastus inscription found in Corinth mentions an Erastus who served as city treasurer, corresponding to a figure mentioned in Romans. Now, what we notice about that is that there is absolutely zero archaeological evidence for any of the major events or characters in the Bible that sets the foundation of the Christian faith. What do I mean by that? There are no mentions that there are any archaeological evidence that support. As a matter of fact, let me continue to read what Chet gave us. Some biblical events remain disputed or lack clear archaeological confirmation. And this is Chet being really nice and being really conservative. Basically, there is no confirmation, corroboration for the following. The Exodus from Egypt, as I mentioned before. The conquest of Jericho as described in Joshua. Noah's Ark story, and I've been in a long debate about 3 days on Thread regarding Noah's Ark, the story. The Tower of Babel, Sodom and Gomorrah, another very popular story. Several candidate sites exist, but no consensus. And finally, the census at Jesus's birth. Those are just some of the things that are foundational to the Bible and Christianity that there is no archaeological evidence for. And this is big and this is major. And so as you can see, the things that there appear to be, or that they are archaeological evidence, are many of the minor things of the Bible, the minor characters, the minor events, but for many of the major events. And some of the stuff is not mentioned because they're just, I guess, really over the top, like the Garden of Eden, the whole Adam and Eve story, and many of the others. But when we talk about, as I mentioned to someone earlier today, when we talk about events like the Exodus is foundational to Christianity. Many Black Christians, African-American Christians, believe that they are, in essence, reliving the Exodus. And that is who we are, the Jews who were kept in captivity, enslaved, and eventually escaped to the promised land. But if that story does not exist, then the entire religion falls apart. Noah's Ark. So as God got angry, which is a characteristic that he is not supposed to have, right? Or is he? Became angry with mankind, he decided to destroy everyone via a flood, with the exception of a family of 8, and that's Noah's family. And so as the story goes, humanity, not just humanity, but animals, all of the animals, all evolved or all came from this family of 8. So let's understand this. So we have the Adam and Eve story. We know that there are some suspect issues in the Adam and Eve story, because if there were just Adam and Eve, we know that Adam and Eve had 2 sons, Cain and Abel. What the Bible never says, and what I've never read anywhere, is that Adam and Eve had a daughter. But we do know that Cain, after, I guess, killing Abel or whatever, Cain was sent away or left and found a wife. And so that is suspect in itself, because if there are not supposed to be any other people, how did he and where did he find a wife from? Did Cain and Abel, before Abel's death or whatever, did they populate the earth or start the population of the earth by committing incest with their mother Eve? So that is another question. But as we go through that whole scenario, God becomes angry with humankind, and mankind, and says, even though I knew that you were going to do all of this, I am still angry. So I am going to destroy all of you with a flood, with the exception of 8 people. That is, Noah's family was not a morally upstart family, right? So they had their issues as well. So God killed everyone except everyone that was on the boat, all the people, all the humans, being 8 people, and then two, supposedly two are very animal. And so the story has it that Noah's family repopulated, was the genesis in repopulating the earth with humanity, and that the animals, two of each, on the ark were the genesis for repopulating the animal population. If you even like, we shouldn't even have to have the discussion. I posted the other day on Threads. Asked the question: do Christians actually believe the not Adam and Eve story, but the Noah's Ark story? And I got some people who said yes, they do. Some people who argue me that it made sense to them. It is highly illogical, highly incredible, unbelievable, and absolutely impossible for that story to occur the way that it has occurred. From the standpoint of a flood, and we've gone over this before over and over again, there is no archaeological evidence of a worldwide flood. What we do understand and what we do know is that there were a lot of localized flooding, and depending on where you lived in the world and the time that you lived in, these flood stories, and there were numerous ones, and pretty much every religion and every culture and every society had a flood story. The biblical flood stories, Noah's Ark flood story, is not original. It is not unique. It is a borrowed or stolen story from much older religions. And these stories evolved from the standpoint of what we would call, what we saw or what they saw as in localized flooding. Think about this. If you are primitive and you believe that the world consists of what you can see, touch, and feel, and maybe even travel to, when there is localized flooding, you believe that it is the flooding of the world. And so, like any other fish story, a localized flooding incident became a worldwide flooding incident because the story grew and grew and grew. And as different religions and different societies borrowed or stole the story, we get to what we have now, which includes the Noah Ark story. But keep in mind and know that without a doubt, there is zero archaeological evidence that supports a worldwide flood. And so I think that is important. We talked about the Tower of Babel, the whole Sodom and Gomorrah story. We know what happened with that. We've talked about that in essence. What we want to make clear on that is that this is not a situation that occurred or happened because of homosexual activities. If you really read the story in detail, it was more about a story of a man not being hospitable to strangers and not being hospitable to angels. A situation in which the angels wanted to rape the daughter. I forget the name, but wanted to rape a couple of daughters, and the main character was willing to give the daughters up, but instead the angels and some of the savages, the men outside the door beating on the door, wanted to do their thing. And so you have a situation where the city is being burned down. And here's something that we don't really touch on. I oftentimes talk about how the Bible is misogynistic. Everything that was done, everything that the man and the main character did in this story, never got punished for. But the woman, simply for looking back, which would be a normal reaction if the town that you grew up in was being burned down and you're running for your life, she looked back and God turned her into a pillar of salt. So think about that, if you will, for just a minute. And then we talk about the sisters of Jesus' birth. That's a whole other story to get into. There are historians and scholars who say that none of this is true. It did not happen. And so people are critical of me on social media and some of the other places that I've spoken and talked about, because I, without a doubt, questioned the existence of even a human Jesus, right? We know that the name Jesus was a common name. We know that the title Christ was a very common title at the time. And so because, and I said this, my doubt, my reason for doubt is that there is zero contemporaneous literature or documentation for Jesus when he lived. So you mean to tell me that, first of all, let's understand this. There were societies in that area, the area that Jesus lived in, that kept meticulous recordings of everything and documented everything from the mundane, what kind of pottery that was used, what kind of food that was cooked, how the plants, all that kind of thing, all the way to the extraordinary, right? So you mean to tell me that a man who many people believe to be the second coming of God performed miracles, raised people from the dead, fed 5,000, did all of these things, walked on water? You mean to tell me that somebody in these societies and communities around, including Rome, no one, not one person wrote about these things as they were happening? I find that to be next to impossible, regardless of the excuses that Christian apologists make. I find this to be utterly impossible that existed. So that in itself. Now, what I will tell you again in clear transparency, as a scholar, I know that other scholars have believe that the Jesus character probably existed, and there are even famous agnostic or atheist scholars like Bart Ehrman, who has written and said that he believed that a historical person fit in the description, the physical description of Jesus probably existed. But none of that is based on actual evidence per se. And you can talk to Bart about that, or anybody who's had the conversation, or pull up some of his conversations about that. He'll tell you that. And same thing with other scholars and historians who believe that a human Jesus probably existed. There are also, and I'm reading a book now, there are also many historians and scholars who don't believe that a physical Jesus existed. And so I am sort of in the middle. I am sort of swaying back and forth as to whether or not I believe it. But here's the one thing that we do know for sure, or at least there is no evidence of. Let me put it like that. There is no evidence for a divine Jesus. There is no evidence for a Abrahamic God entity, another divine being, his father. And so let's just be clear on that. And so I wanted to, and if you guys have any comments, please put your comments in. Let me know what you think so we can continue this discussion. But those are pretty much, that was a list of 15 archaeological findings that support some things within the Bible. What I find ironic about this is that, again, none of these things, none of these archaeological findings are any of the major incidents or characters or events in the Bible. Trust me, if any of those existed, they would have been at the top of this list. Most of these, if not all of these, are very minor and insignificant things that most people, who even Christians, have no idea about, sort of read over, skimmed over, holds no practical value in their faith, has little value in the foundation of Christianity or Judaism or Islam for that matter. And then what we do find is that the stories, the characters, and the events that are instrumental in creating the faith, the very lifeblood of the faith, there is no archaeological evidence for any of those events or characters. And so that is really interesting. And so Chat goes on to say, and I'm going to just read this overall assessment by Chat. And I haven't read this, so it is what it is. Most archaeologists, whether religious or not, agree that archaeology has confirmed many people, places, rulers, cities, customs, and political events described in the Bible. At the same time, archaeology has not conclusively verified every biblical narrative, particularly miracles or some major events from Israel's early history. What's going on, Neo? Glad to have you, Neo. So the evidence is strongest for the Bible's historical framework from roughly the period of the Israelite monarchy around the 10th century BC through the New Testament era, while earlier narratives remain more difficult to verify archaeologically. So again, I've given you 15 events that archaeologists or archaeology can confirm were in the Bible and are real. None of those events were of any real consequences to the faith and to the religion, to the existence of a divine Jesus or a divine Abrahamic God. Neo says, please hit the like button. More notifications can go out. Yes, please hit the like button. Please do that. Please share, because I think this is some great information for those of you who are questioning your faith, those of you who have deconverted, those of you who are on a journey. Even though I deconverted now 11 years ago, after spending about 40 years as a Christian, I still, and I've gone to school and obtained an advanced degree in religious studies and all of that. I still do my research. And it's not a thing where I am unsure. It is a thing as to where I want all the information as possible. Also, because those Christian apologists that I engage in conversation with, 90% of the arguments are the same old thing. There's a few who come with something new. And so I have to be on my game, and I have to know about a lot of this stuff. And I would tell you, here's what's really frustrating. And I mentioned this to a gentleman today that I was debating or talking to today. What most Christian apologists attempt to do is they attempt to disprove science in an effort to prove their faith is real. Those two don't work. It doesn't. I could be 100% wrong about my belief or my understanding of evolution, Big Bang theory, natural selection, abiogenesis, whatever it is. I could be completely wrong. That still wouldn't prove that a divine Jesus exists and that a divine God created everything. And so it is frustrating because I tell the people, I say, you guys spend more time trying to disprove science because you can't prove that your God actually exists. And so I tried to keep the debates and the arguments on point and in line because this is a common distraction point. They will get into everything about, so you believe in evolution. I said, even if I did believe in evolution, it wouldn't prove that your God exists. Even if we proved that evolution wasn't real or didn't exist, or proved, even if we went as far as to say that the creation of the universe came about by some unnatural force, that still wouldn't prove that the Abrahamic God is real. We would have to identify what that unnatural source was, and whether or not that unnatural source meets the definition of a God, and then whether or not that God, out of 10,000 gods created by humanity, fits the description of the Abrahamic God. And then we have to prove that the Abrahamic God was the one that created all of that. And so it is a long stretch. Lance, what's going on? Glad to have you. Good evening, folks. Just got in by the topic, another hammer drop on religion and delusion. I like that. Yeah, it is. And so Lance, one of the things that I said coming into this year was that we wanted to do more videos, more podcasts like this, where the information is practical, the information is tangible, and it was less about emotion and feelings and opinion and more about what's practical, what can be proven, what can be disproven, because I take this really, really serious. And so you just joined, but what I did, I ran through a list of the top 15 archaeological findings that support the Bible. And what we realize, what I already knew, and what you may already know, and many of us on here already know, is that none of those archaeological findings at all are anything that supports the foundation of Christianity. These were minor incidents that happened historically that were placed in the Bible. But again, when we talk about things like the Garden of Eden, that was not part of the list of archaeological findings. The Exodus, that was not part of the list of archaeological findings. Noah's Ark, that was not part of the list of archaeological findings. The resurrection of Jesus Christ, that was not one of the archaeological findings. And so these are four of the primary events that shape and support Christianity as a faith and as a religion. Also would support, in to a certain extent, certainly the resurrection being one, but the other ones to a lesser extent would support the existence of a divine Jesus and maybe even the existence of a God. But yet, in 2,000 plus years, there is zero archaeological evidence to support any of these major events and to include the characters. Moses, Abraham, Isaac, a divine resurrected Jesus, all of these. And so I will end with this. As you guys listen to this, I will end with this. It is imperative for all of us that we continue to do the research. This is something that we're interested in. If we're oftentimes engaged in these conversations. From the time that I deconverted in 2015 to now, my position has only become stronger because doing this type of work requires that I dig deep and that I search and that I look even more so than what I did when I deconverted. And all that I am finding are things that support my position as a non-believer, as an atheist. Even with today, when I specifically went to ChatGPT and said, please give me the archaeological findings that support the Bible. And what it brought up was 15 non-essential, non-important, and non-foundational events that I guarantee you 99% of Christians have never heard of, with the exception of maybe the Dead Sea Scrolls. All of the other 14 or 15 other archaeological findings, most Christians have never heard of. And so that lets you know that those of us who are non-believers, who used to be believers, who are non-believers now, and again, I won't say that I am 100% right, but I am on the side of logic, rational thinking, and critical thought. And I've said this, and I would die on this hill if I am wrong and I get to heaven and I meet God and God says to me, Willie, why didn't you believe in me? I am going to say, because the brain, the mind, the mental capacity, and the intellectualism, the intellect that you gave me, and I did my research and I asked my questions, and it led me to the position that I ended up being. Belief or disbelief, in my case, disbelief is not a choice. It is a result of the evidence, the research, my logical thinking, my rational thinking, and my critical thought. It is the results of what all of those combined have led me to be. And so I can say to this God entity with a clear mind that I am where I am earnestly and honestly. And so I am comfortable. I sleep very well at night. I am not at all concerned with going to an eternal damnation place called hell. I am not at all worried and concerned that I won't spend eternity with this God when my time on this planet is up. And so I hope that all of you, or many of you, feel the same way. And if you don't, but you're still wavering, this is the place for you. This is the podcast for you. We talk about these things. We uncover these things. I do the research for you. Not many of the things I know, but if I don't, I certainly do the research for you. And this is the place that we have these discussions. And so I'm going to end it there. I hope that this was substantive and informative, and I hope that you got something out of that, out of this. And we will continue along this sort of path, bringing you the information from a more practical standpoint that we can use when we do have these conversations with believers, if we so decide to engage. And so I thank you, all of you. Lance, thank you for being here. Let's see, Neo, what's going on? Glad to have you here. Who else? Let's see, Denise Washington, thank you so much. Sharon, thank you. And all the rest of you who may be out there listening and did not make a comment, or who may hear this at a later date, I certainly appreciate all of you. Please leave comments. I try to answer all of the comments and get back to them. And if you have an idea of a topic that you want us to discuss, please let me know, and we will have that discussion. But until I will see you in a couple of weeks, until the next time, absolutely. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and I will talk to you in 2 weeks.